Facebook ads have changed so much over the past few years that we've had to create new best practices for just about everything. New campaign types mean that we now have to use very different retargeting strategies than the ones we used to use. Now, fortunately, we spent more than $70 million on Facebook ads last year alone. So we've had plenty of opportunity to test and work out what's working best right now. In this video, I'm going to show you my new Facebook ad retargeting strategies. So in this video, I'm going to cover two different retargeting strategies depending on which campaign type you are using. So the first one assumes that you're using a manual campaign with Advantage Plus audience. I'm going to quickly walk you through the example of how we would therefore set things up from a retargeting standpoint if you are using that setup. So I'm in an example Facebook ad account, going to go ahead and click on create and then select sales from down here, click continue. And then instead of using Advantage Plus shopping, like I said, the first one I'm going to show you assumes you're using manual sales campaigns. So I'm going to go ahead and click on manual sales campaigns and click continue. I should quickly mention, by the way, that screen I just showed you where you have to choose between ASC, Advantage Plus shopping campaigns, and manual campaigns, that is all going to change over the next 6 months. In terms of the strategies I'm recommending in this video, you can absolutely use both of them still, even with the new setup that's coming. It's just that the interface is going to look a little bit different. You won't have that option early on. You'll instead be able to switch over to manual type setup at the ad set level. So just wanted to clarify that in case you're watching this in 6 months' time or a year's time and thinking, hang on, this looks different to what I'm seeing here. But you can still follow along and do what it is that I'm about to demonstrate. Okay, so we've gone and created the manual campaign. I'm not going to worry about all the other settings. I'm just going to go ahead and skip on over to the ad set level and then scroll down to the targeting sections. Obviously, we've got this audience control section, this Advantage Plus audience. Now, I've created videos talking about targeting and how these work and the differences between them and all that sort of thing. But what I want to talk about here is specifically retargeting. So in audience controls, which are hard constraints, you still want to go in and select the areas in which you can deliver your product service you want to advertise to. Meta here is defaulted to the United Kingdom. We could make that narrower if we're a local business and can only serve people locally. We could add in other countries if we're an international business, etc., etc. There are some more options where you can set a minimum age range. For example, if you're only able to advertise your product services to people over the age of 21, for example, in a certain country, you can set that. But you have fairly limited targeting controls up here in the audience control section. What you do have in terms of more options is this Advantage Plus audience section here, but the targeting inputs that you put into this section are suggestions. They're not hard constraints. So if you say to Meta, look, I only want to advertise in the UK, they're not going to start putting ads in lots of different countries. But if you add things down here as audience suggestions, so let's say, look, I only want to advertise to people aged, let's give an example. I only want to advertise to people aged 25 to 35. Meta's going to use that information to direct their advertising initially. So they'll start with that age range. But if Meta believes, based on all the data and the things that they see, that they'll be able to get you good results by advertising to some people that are outside of that age range, then they will, because this is a suggestion, it's not a hard constraint. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back to just 18 plus. Now, what we do in here, because of that, is we like to create effectively a hybrid ad set that both retargets, so targets your warm audiences, and also targets your cold audiences. How do you do that? You come in here and under this Advantage Plus audience section, you add in your custom audiences in here. So let's say, for example, you wanted to retarget your website visitors. So if I go ahead and pop in website visitors, we've got 180-day website visitors in there, right? Now, you want to make sure that you add in all your custom audiences. So there's the 180-day website visitors, but you also want to add in Facebook page engagers, people who've engaged with your Instagram account, video viewers, if you're using instant forms, lead forms, people who engage with those, your email list, so both meta sources and non-meta sources, add in all your custom audiences. And then you want to leave the rest of this open. So leave age, gender, detailed targeting open. Now, this looks like a warm audience ad set, but it's not. It's a hybrid ad set. It's a mixture of warm audiences and cold audiences. Because remember, the targeting inputs we're putting in here are suggestions. So Meta is going to start with the people in our warm audiences, but they're also going to go outside of that if there are other prospects that they believe can get great results. So you're going to end up advertising to a mixture of warm and cold audiences, and Meta's going to sort of balance that and put ads in front of who they think will get you the best results possible doing that sort of setup. So often we have a very simplified campaign setup for businesses that are using manual, say, sales campaigns, but the same could be applied to manual leads campaign, where you've got very simplified campaign structure and one ad set that has a combination of both warm and cold audiences. So there is a potential issue with this retargeting strategy that I'm going to cover in a minute and show you how to solve it. Before I do, just want to quickly let you know about our done-for-you Facebook and Instagram advertising services. So my company can create, manage and optimize your meta ad campaigns for you. We can take all that workload off your hands, almost certainly get you significantly better results by having us manage it, because we spend tens of millions every year. We've worked with thousands of clients and we do this all day, every day. If that sounds interesting, there is a link in the video description below. You can click on that, come through to a page on our website and book in a free, no obligation call with one of our team members to find out exactly how we're able to help you. So if that sounds interesting, go ahead and do that, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. So I mentioned a second ago that there's a potential issue with that strategy that I just showed you. And that's that you can't customize your creative and your messaging, your copy, between warm and cold audiences. If you've got a hybrid ad set, like I demonstrated, well, the same ads are going to be put in front of both warm and cold audiences, so you have to create both creative and ad copy that sort of makes sense for both of them. If you wanted to create customized ads for warm audiences only, perhaps they get a special discount, perhaps using different language because you know people have interacted with you previously, then you're going to need to mix up the setup somewhat. You're going to have to separate out those warm and cold audiences into different ad sets. So let me show you how we would go about doing something like that, okay? So instead of having all the custom audiences in an Advantage Plus audience ad set, we would instead want to create a warm audience ad set that uses original audience options. So you see this button down here that says switch to original audience options. If I go ahead and click on that, Meta's not going to want you to do that because typically it doesn't produce as good results, but there are specific use cases like what we've talked about here. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and add in all our custom audiences like we did previously into this custom audience section. We can deselect Advantage Custom Audience, because if you leave that selected, you'll see that that will mean that Meta will put your ads in front of people that aren't in your custom audience. So make sure you go ahead and deselect that. And what this is now going to do is this ad set is set up to only advertise to people within your custom audiences that also meet your other criteria like location, age, etc., etc. So you generally want to leave these bits down here as open like you would with all retargeting ad sets, but it does operate differently in that these are now hard constraints because we've switched to basically how Meta used to operate with the original audience setups. So that would then be our warm audience that wouldn't be targeting cold audiences. Then if I go ahead and duplicate this ad set, this is now our warm audience ad set. So if I go ahead and click duplicate into the original campaign is fine. And then we need to create a separate ad set for our cold audience ad set. I'm just going to quickly rename these so that we can keep track and it all makes sense. So if I just call this one cold ad set, and then this one up here was the warm ad set. Okay, so the way we would only target cold audiences and exclude warm audiences would be to come down. We don't need to use original audiences here. We can switch back. This is an original audience because we duplicated from original audience, but we can switch back here to using Advantage Plus audience, which is typically what I would recommend. And then in this audience control section, we can click on show more options and we can exclude custom audiences. So here we'd want to make sure that we are excluding our, website visitors and all the other custom audiences that we are targeting in the warm audience ad set, right? Obviously make sure that you're not specifically targeting these people down in this Advantage Plus audience section, so take that out of there. And then you can set up the Advantage Plus audience section with your suggestions. So whatever you think your age range is, if your product service is people are mostly male or mostly female that are interested, you can go ahead and select gender targeting, and then you can add in detailed targeting with interests and things like that. Remember, these are suggestions, so adding stuff in here is often a good idea and really doesn't hurt your campaign. And then this will operate as a cold audience ad set that is excluding your warm audiences. And remember, this exclusion of the warm audience is happening up in audience controls, which means they are hard constraints. So Meta won't sort of go beyond those, won't break the rule of not targeting those people because it's up in that audience control section, and it allows you to make sure that your warm audiences aren't seeing the ads from within this ad set. And that would allow you to customize messaging, to customize ad creative, so you could have separate ads in the cold audience ad set versus the warm audience ad set, and you could like I said, have different messaging, different creative. For some businesses, that's really important. Okay, so that's the first Facebook ads retargeting strategy that I wanted to cover. I'll cover the second in a second. But no matter which retargeting strategy you're using, it is absolutely essential that the data coming into your Facebook ad account is really, really accurate, because you need that as an advertiser to be able to optimize the campaigns to see what's going on. Meta also needs that data to really optimize your campaigns, work out who to put your ads in front of, how often, all that sort of stuff. The importance of that should not be underestimated. And unfortunately, because of all the privacy regulations that have come in over the past few years, the accuracy of the data we get from the Meta Pixel is not as good as it used to be, and it's not good enough, honestly. Fortunately, there is a solution, and it's called HYROS. HYROS is the best tracking and attribution software for Facebook and Instagram ads. It's a software that all the big players, including myself, use. I use it to track the results that I generate from my own ads. I also use it for all my organic content as well, which is really useful. So if someone comes through and books a call for our done for you services, for example, I can see exactly where they came from with a lot of accuracy, and that allows me to make decisions in my business, which is really, really helpful. And let me quickly show you how important this is. So I'm in my HYROS dashboard. I've isolated one of our Meta ad campaigns, and I've created a report for it so we can see the data, and you can take a look at this. So this campaign spent just under £2,000, generated £15,000 in revenue. But here's the really important bit: reported versus revenue. And in this column, we can see £12,000. Now, what that means is that out of the £15,000 that this campaign has actually generated, HYROS has been able to report on the full 15,000, £12,000 of which Meta was not originally able to see. So if we're just looking within our Meta ad account, not using HYROS, we would have seen that £3,000 of revenue was generated from this campaign, and that is not true at all. That is a much, much lower ROAS number than the actual £15,000 of revenue that was generated. For a number of years now, Meta's ad tracking capabilities have not been as accurate as they once were, because all sorts of privacy regulations have come into effect, and it's only heading that way. It's only becoming more and more difficult to get accurate data and track our results as we need to be able to do. This is a relatively extreme case, and the reason why is because Meta has a 7-day maximum attribution window, and this is an ad campaign that's retargeting for one of our services that people usually take a lot longer than 7 days to make a decision on. So if someone clicks on an ad, they often won't convert within 7 days. Meta's simply not able to see that data, and that's where HYROS comes in. The important thing is that you need accurate data, and HYROS takes care of that. So if you want to get better results from your Facebook ads without actually having to touch your ads, go ahead and sign up to HYROS. There is a link in the video description. So let's go through the second Facebook ads retargeting strategy that I want to show you and discuss. So I'm back in the example Facebook ad account to demonstrate this. I'm going to go ahead and click on create and select sales again. Like I said, previous strategy I talked about can also work with leads campaigns too. But if I go ahead and click on sales, and then this time I do go with an Advantage Plus shopping campaign, what is soon to be renamed in most ad accounts as Advantage Plus sales campaign, just so you're aware. Effectively, if we are retargeting with this campaign type, ASCs, the retargeting is handled for us. Meta automatically works out how much to spend on cold audiences, how much to spend on engaged audiences, so people who have perhaps consumed your content, seen your ads, visited your website, things like that, but haven't yet purchased, and then also how much should be spent on existing customers. Meta does a really good job of this within ASCs, and we can see that the reason why I've gone down to this section here is this reporting section, right? So this is an example ad account. I haven't defined the engaged audience and the existing customers, but you can go ahead and create those custom audiences and say to Meta, this is my engaged audience, people who have consumed content, let's say interacted before but not purchased, and then this is a customer list, actually people who have bought from me previously and are our existing customers. And it's in the reporting section, where the inputs you select here don't affect who your ads are put in front of, but it does affect what you can see from a reporting standpoint. You can see exactly how much is being spent on cold versus engaged versus existing customers. And we can see that Meta does a pretty good job, and they're pretty consistent in terms of how much is spent, depending on obviously the size of your engaged audiences and your existing customers. Now, again, with this setup, you do run into that same issue of you're not able to customize ads, so creative and copy, between warm and cold audiences. You're going to end up with the same ads or the same stuff being put in front of both warm and cold audiences. So potential solutions to that: either ditch ASCs and go ahead and use manual campaigns and then set it up as I showed you previously with a previous retargeting campaign. But we often won't do that, honestly, because a lot of the time we are going to see that with ASCs, that produces consistently the best results for our clients. For a lot of businesses now, particularly as this campaign type is becoming more powerful, more sophisticated, with the changes coming up, I think it's going to be even more so. We are using this more and more for clients. And therefore, the alternative to changing it up, customizing the creative between the warm and cold audiences is just to not worry about it. It's just to go, actually, let's just put our best ads in front of everyone, not worry about this like real distinction. That's becoming more and more of an old school way of doing things from a digital marketing standpoint anyway. Over the last 5-10 years, we've all realized the importance of like brand building and not trying to segment out. People go through this step and then they go through this step and have it be so rigid, and have it more be like, I'm going to try and put really good stuff in front of as many people as possible, some of which are warm, some of which are cold, and I know that that's probably going to lead to the most conversions overall. So the ability to customize messaging and ads between warm audiences and cold audiences is much more important for some businesses than others. So for a lot of e-commerce businesses, I would just not worry about it. Just go ahead, sell your products. Like I said, put your best foot forward, you likely get the best results. It's more important for other types of businesses, particularly say high-end service providers who want to and need to warm people up, need to put lots of different ads in front of people over an extended time period to warm them up and get to the point where they want to work with them, where they want to pay these high prices for, say, a high ticket service, for example. Could apply to products as well, but it's normally the things that cost a lot more that are really involved purchases. And then the importance of doing something like that is greater, and you might want to have other campaign types running alongside either an ASC or, say, a manual sales campaign or a manual leads campaign in order to do a lot of that warming up. And therefore you have a natural distinction between potentially what some people might see who are in your warm audience that's, say, being run exclusively through an awareness campaign or an engagement campaign to warm them up over time. We do that with something called an omnipresent content campaign, which can be really effective, but that's then going to be separate from your other more direct to offer campaigns that are trying to directly sell your products, directly sell your services. And if you are in that situation and you would like to know what an omnipresent content campaign is, how to set it up and all that stuff, you can check out this video here. I literally walk you through the entire process. If you do offer a high-end service, even a more expensive product, basically if you're going at some point to be asking for more than $1,000 from your customers, then going ahead and getting an omnipresent content campaign set up alongside the other stuff that we've discussed here in your other campaigns is a really good idea. So go ahead and give this a watch.